Hello and welcome to day one of the march towards Jerusalem. Uh, it's been actually 6 months at this point, 5.5 months since Jesus set his face to go to Jerusalem, since he made that first appearance at the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem and then disappeared and then into the outer regions and then came back. And now we're at a point where it is just less than 2 weeks away from Passover. It's less than a week before the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And that calling that Jesus has to be in Jerusalem for Passover that year, that direction that he got from the Mount of Transfiguration where he met with Moses and Elijah, it's moving him towards Jerusalem. But he's still in the outlying regions. And there in the outlying regions, word comes to him that his friend Lazarus is sick and near death. And rather than jumping to his feet right away to return, Jesus delays for a few days. And then he says, okay, let's go. And I want to pick up that story today because this is where things really begin to move towards the crucifixion. But when Jesus heard about this, he said, Lazarus' sicknesses will not end in death. No, it has happened that the glory of God, so that the Son of Man will receive glory from him. So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed for the next 2 days. And finally he said, let's go to Judea. His disciples said, Rabbi, only a few days ago the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are we going there? And Jesus replied, there are 12 hours in every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have light of the light of this world. But the night is where the danger of stumbling because there is no light. Then he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. Let's go wake him. Then the disciples said, Lord, if he's sleeping, he'll soon get better. Though Jesus meant Lazarus they thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping, but he was dead. So he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I'm glad I wasn't there, for now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. And Thomas, nicknamed Didymus, said to the fellow disciples, let's go and die with Jesus. You can see that they're thinking getting to Bethany that close in the outskirts of Jerusalem is not a good idea. You know the story perhaps in John chapter 11. Jesus goes. Martha comes to see him and he tells her that she'll see Lazarus again, and he says, I know I'll see him in the resurrection. And Jesus says, well, wait a minute, I am the resurrection and the life. All of this foreshadowing what would happen in the next 2 weeks. Then Mary comes, and with Mary a huge crowd. And this is where things take a turn towards finality. As Jesus and Mary and the crowd all gather around the tomb where Lazarus was buried, Jesus says, Lazarus, come forth. And he displays his power over death, and Lazarus comes forth. And we read that many people who were with Mary believed in Jesus when they saw what happened. But some went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. And the leading priests and Pharisees called a council together. What are we going to do? They said to each other. This man certainly performs many miraculous signs, and if we allow him to go on like this, soon everyone will believe in him. Then the Roman armies will come and destroy our temple and our nation. See, there had been rumors that often Nain, a widow's son, had come to life again. There had been rumors that off somewhere Caiaphas had a daughter who was revived. But now this was on the very outskirts of Jerusalem in a town called Bethany. This was within 2 weeks of the largest crowd ever to gather in Jerusalem. This was in 2 weeks of this great Passover, and even the Roman governor Pilate was going to be there. And this was a powder keg. Caiaphas, who was the high priest at the time, said, "You don't know what you're talking about. Don't you realize it is better for one man to die for the people than for the whole nation to be destroyed?" He did not say this on his own. As high priest that year, he was led to prophesy that Jesus would die for the nation. For not only for the nation, but to bring together and unite all the children of God scattered around the world. From that time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot to kill Jesus. As a result, he stopped his public ministry among the people and left Jerusalem. He went to a place near the wilderness village of Ephraim and stayed there with his disciples. But the time of Passover was at hand, and the chief priests and the Pharisees began to put word out that if anybody saw Jesus, they should let them know so that they could secretly arrest him and put an end to this ministry. This was about 2 weeks before Passover. And in this March to Jerusalem, March to Easter series that we're doing, we're going to take a look at what happened in between the raising of Lazarus from the dead and the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. We'll follow him along through the wilderness area of Ephraim towards Jerusalem, where he entered on the where he made his triumphal entry before Passover. And then we'll take a look at what happened during that week. Little by little, we'll get to see what's happened with Jesus. And starting on Wednesday, in 2 days' time, we'll do this in the context of the exciting March to Easter, sharing these devotionals with you, but also with children. So folks, have a great day, but realize that with the raising of Lazarus, the die was cast. The religious leaders were ready to have Jesus arrested and killed. And we are marching towards Easter.